As global politics and international relations evolve, certain countries have become increasingly challenging for American travelers. In 2025, various regions around the world present heightened risks and diplomatic tensions, making them less welcoming for U.S. citizens. From geopolitical conflicts to strained diplomatic ties, these destinations pose significant safety and logistical concerns. We explore the 10 countries where Americans might encounter difficulties or face significant obstacles, providing crucial insights for anyone considering international travel in these complex and sensitive environments. Today we will talk about 10 countries where Americans are not welcome in 2025. So before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. 1. North Korea. North Korea remains one of the most isolated and secretive countries in the world. The regime under Kim Jong-un maintains strict control over its borders and views Americans with extreme suspicion. Travelers from the U.S. face significant risks, including arbitrary detention, harsh interrogation, and severe punishment for any perceived infractions. Diplomatic relations are virtually non-existent, and the U.S. Department of State strongly advises against all travel to North Korea due to these high risks. 2. Iran. Iran's relationship with the United States has been fraught with tension for decades, and the situation continues to deteriorate. Anti-American sentiment is prevalent, and Americans can face heightened scrutiny and hostility. The Iranian government often detains U.S. citizens on charges related to political dissent or alleged espionage, leading to prolonged legal battles and unsafe conditions. Travelers are strongly advised to avoid visiting Iran unless absolutely necessary. 3. Venezuela. Venezuela is experiencing severe economic and political crisis, with widespread shortages of essential goods and escalating violence. The U.S. government has issued travel warnings due to the dangerous conditions and anti-American sentiment prevalent in the country. American visitors might face challenges such as theft, extortion, and hostility from both authorities and local residents. The situation remains highly unstable, making travel risky and problematic. 4. Syria. Syria has been engulfed in conflict since 2011, leading to a highly dangerous environment for all foreign visitors. The ongoing civil war and presence of various militant groups make travel to Syria extremely hazardous. Americans in particular face the threat of kidnapping, terrorism, and violence. The U.S. Department of State advises against all travel to Syria, highlighting the severe risks involved. 5. Russia. Although Russia does not officially ban American tourists, recent years have seen increased tension between the two countries. The Russian government has implemented measures that can make travel challenging for Americans, including increased scrutiny and potential harassment. Political tensions, espionage accusations, and deteriorating diplomatic relations contribute to an environment where Americans may not feel welcome or safe. 6. Cuba. Cuba's relationship with the U.S. has fluctuated, and while there have been periods of improved relations, recent developments have led to a more cautious approach toward American travelers. Restrictions and regulations concerning travel to Cuba have become more complex, and there is a prevailing atmosphere of suspicion towards Americans due to ongoing political sensitivities. 7. Myanmar. Burma. Myanmar's political landscape has been unstable, especially following the military coup in 2021. The country's human rights abuses and political unrest make it a difficult and unsafe destination for Americans. The U.S. government has issued travel advisories due to the high risk of violence and arrests, and anti-American sentiment is growing amidst the country's turmoil. 8. Libya. Libya continues to struggle with internal conflict and instability, creating a dangerous environment for all visitors, including Americans. The security situation remains volatile, with ongoing clashes between rival factions and frequent instances of violence. The U.S. Department of State strongly advises against travel to Libya due to the risk of kidnapping, terrorism, and general lawlessness. 9. Pakistan. While Pakistan has regions that are relatively safe, others remain highly volatile due to political instability and extremist activities. The U.S.-Pakistan relationship has been tense, and Americans, in certain areas, face significant risks, including terrorism and kidnapping. Travelers must exercise extreme caution and stay updated on regional security advisories. The security situation in Pakistan is highly variable. Certain areas, particularly in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province and the tribal regions bordering Afghanistan, are known for their instability and presence of militant groups. The threat of terrorism is significant, with occasional attacks targeting public places, government buildings, and security forces. These areas are prone to violence and have seen frequent clashes between militant groups and government forces. The Balochistan province also faces security challenges due to separatist movements and militant activities. The province has experienced attacks on both security personnel and civilian targets, contributing to a tense atmosphere for travelers. While major cities like Karachi and Quetta have improved in terms of security, sporadic incidents of violence and unrest still occur. 10. Yemen. Yemen is another country plagued by conflict and instability. The civil war and ongoing humanitarian crisis have created an extremely dangerous situation for all foreign nationals. The U.S. government strongly advises against all travel to Yemen, citing risks of terrorism, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The security situation is highly unpredictable, making travel to Yemen particularly hazardous. The conflict has resulted in a staggering humanitarian crisis. Millions of Yemenis are facing severe food shortages, with the country experiencing one of the worst famines in recent history. Infrastructure has been devastated, with hospitals, schools, and essential services severely affected. This dire situation makes it incredibly challenging for foreigners to access even basic necessities, let alone navigate through a war-torn environment. Security conditions in Yemen are highly volatile and unpredictable. The risk of terrorism is significant, with various extremist groups operating within the country. Kidnapping for ransom has been reported as a common tactic employed by both extremist groups and local factions. The presence of landmines and unexploded ordnance poses additional dangers, particularly in areas affected by heavy fighting. The U.S. government and other international entities have issued strong advisories against traveling to Yemen. The U.S. Department of State regularly updates its travel warnings, highlighting the extreme risks associated with visiting the country. It advises Americans to avoid all travel to Yemen due to the severe threats of terrorism, violence, and kidnapping. In addition to the direct dangers of conflict and instability, the Yemeni government's capacity to offer consular support to foreigners is severely limited. In the event of an emergency, obtaining assistance can be exceptionally difficult. Many countries have suspended their diplomatic missions in Yemen, further complicating the situation for those in need of help. Travel insurance is generally unavailable for trips to Yemen, leaving travelers without financial protection in case of emergencies. The high risks involved also mean that most travel insurance providers will exclude coverage for trips to Yemen. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up. Leave a comment and click the button to subscribe.